Hello, stagey friends. It is me, Aaron James.
And me, MickeyJoTheatre. Oh my god, hey.
And we are here for part 2 of our stagey 2025 resolutions. So if you haven't watched already, part 1 is over on Mickey Jo's channel. And you can see the first 6 of our resolutions. We did 3 each. And now we're going to do the remaining ones. Also, for podcast people, it's all together on Spotify and other platforms. So if you want to listen along, you can do that over there on Mickey Jo's podcast.
Yeah, listen to our theatrical plans and aspirations and manifestations for the coming year.
Yeah, so how we're doing it is we've both been pulling out of this hat from a Noble collection. Thank you so much. From the Alphabet hat. So we've been picking one out and then either saying it to each other or revealing our own. Mm-hmm. It kind of has ended up that we're basically picking one that each other has written and saying it to each other.
I'm going to go rogue now because we've fallen into a pattern. And is it my turn anyway?
It's your turn.
I'm going to fully close my eyes and let the world surprise me. What is this? It's one of mine.
Oh.
There you go. Okay.
But here's the issue though. What about if we end up doing just 3 in a row of yours and then 3 in a row of mine?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I think you're thinking about this too much, if anything.
Let's go wild.
So, okay. I have to speak about this anyway. There you go. This says awards show press rooms.
Okay.
Now, these are mostly to do with our theatre going, and we said we weren't going to do many that were too career focused.
Yeah, not too focused on us so that it felt like people watching could also share the same ones or note take it, but also it's important to say that how we see theatre is slightly different. So there are things that we also want to show you what personally we're trying to achieve,
because we both work in the industry. This one is not relatable, but this is something I want to do more of this year because we've been going to theatre awards. We go to the Olivier's. We've been going to the Watson Stage Awards.
Went to the Stage Debut Awards.
And I kind of end up falling into a different thing at each one. I don't have a consistent version of what I do at a theatre awards show. Yeah, because I've been live tweeting the Watson Stage Awards, which is some of the most stressful hours of my life. And we just watched the Olivier's.
And we were in the press room for the Stage Debut Awards.
And I loved that, particularly with the Stage Debut Awards, because for those, it's a lot of early career performers. It's a lot of people's first nominations, first award wins. And it was really nice getting to chat to Jack Wolf and Jack Godfrey and Jeevan and so many other brilliant, talented people. Nathan Amsey from Sunset Boulevard. A lot of brilliant, deserving, talented winners, performers and creatives. And I suddenly thought, this is what I want to be doing at more of these types of events. So I'm going to try and stick my neck out a little bit more and say that this is what I want to do in future for other ceremonies. Whether that comes to pass, whether they have the space, that is something that I'm going to try and do. Mm-hmm. But to make a relatable version of this, maybe people want to go to theatre awards who have never been before. I think it's worth going to.
Yeah.
If you've never been to the Watson Stage Awards, it's a great and entertaining evening because they have brilliant bespoke performances.
It's also very cool because you just get to see all the people from the industry you watch online.
Yeah.
I kind of really enjoyed when we were at the last Watson Stage Awards, just looking out into the audience and seeing people react, going, oh my gosh, it's and then it's thinking that's really cool because growing up I always thought it's really rare to see so many theatre fans in the same place. Mm-hmm. And I think to be in a space where there's so many other people it's just a room full of people that love theatre to begin with. Yeah, it's because it's very dedicated to be there. So everybody has decided I really want to go and celebrate theatre tonight, and also you just get to see everybody in the industry there. And the vibes and the atmosphere is very, very cool.
Yeah, the Olivier's is such a triumphant celebration. And for us, because we spend the whole year working in, creating content around and obsessing over the industry, it feels like
a culmination of a year.
It feels like an end of year party.
Yeah.
Basically.
Very much.
Do you want to take the next resolution from the bag?
Let's go with this one. Oh, it's one of mine. So
that is a long resolution.
So this is actually my similar...
This is your professional one.
This is kind of my professional one.
Okay.
Which is here. And it is to be consistent, grow theatre content and series. Mm-hmm. So I feel like in the past month, I really started to find this is what I'm doing. This is what and creating, and I feel like get a lot more creative about things and kind of how we can do content that's similar but complementary but different. And my biggest thing prior to now has been I'll start something and then life will happen and it won't continue. But also just finding what I want to share and talk about and help, because I feel like sometimes we'll have top tips, so we'll talk about like rush schemes and things like that, or these are the places in London to go to that are very for theatre people, and I've always been a big champion of that, and with different things like that. So this year I just want to focus on kind of just being present more and bringing people along on our theatre journey, helping people like on here know things that might help. And I have always been you'll know this, I've always been a big fan of things like Broadway.com's theatre vlogs and things like that, where we used to not live in London or anywhere near London, and the only way that I would experience theatre stuff was on social media, on YouTube, and that was like my theatre fix for the week, that me and my mom would sit and watch. And I feel like a lot of the things I know about theatre is because I digested that content.
Yep.
And so my big thing this year is to like really focus on actually giving back and being excited and creating like ongoing things that people can look forward to. So yeah, that's my kind of this thing for the year is to do the thing that I've wanted to do for ages. Yeah. And yeah, but it's theatre related, and hopefully people will be excited about that. So yeah.
Do you want to talk about any specific series that you have in mind, or what you've been doing recently on places like Instagram?
Yeah, so one thing I've liked recently is finding out everybody's history with theatre and their feelings of theatre. So I've been asking questions for people to kind of tell their stories. But I actually really want to do that with performers and creators, where asking them what's their first West End show and sharing people's stories. I really like sharing more pre-show dining places that you can do, all theatre related things you can do in London. So I'm hopefully going to put more of that out. And also a special one of like, did you know, like facts about these theatres, take you along on our journeys, short of loggy things. Yeah, so big year of trying to build out those things. We'll see.
Yeah, you'll do great. I'm going to take another one. This is one of yours.
Oh, okay, it's me again.
Switching it up. Oh, okay. This is a good one. To see theatre in a new country. I nearly wrote this down, and then I thought that you probably would. I was going to say specifically in a new European country, but I'm open to further afield travel.
So I have two things.
Okay.
I would like to see in a European country, and I feel like hopefully that will happen.
Yeah.
But I kept it open because also there's two parts of the UK that I've not seen theatre in.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I realised I'd never seen a show in Wales. I'd never seen theatre in Wales, and I've never seen theatre in Ireland, in either part of Ireland. I kind of was going to put to see theatre in all parts of the UK, and I didn't want to give myself that challenge that I'd feel really upset about. But a new country, because we've never seen theatre in Spain, or we've now been to Germany. Germany was the first time for me last year, as was Canada.
Yeah.
But Austria's really big for theatre, and other areas around there. So
I'd never seen a show in Germany. I'd been to Germany twice before.
Yeah.
But I'd never seen, so that was my first time seeing theatre there as well. I mean, there's so many places I want to go back to. I want to see theatre in Amsterdam again this year. I want to see theatre in Germany, in Hamburg again this year. But I would love to do a new European country, something in the Scandinavias.
Interesting.
Potentially. I just think we're so lucky in Europe, and it's so unlike a lot of other parts of the world, where you get these completely different cultures, these completely different languages in such proximity to each other. And like there's different culture in all continents, but I think it's so different. Spain is another one. They're doing so much exciting theatre in Madrid and in parts of Spain.
And ATG have just announced they bought a whole chain in Spain, so they're really focusing on like Europe to build it.
Yeah.
And
It's taking all my strength not to say the chain in Spain stays mainly in the plane. All my strength. Also, earlier when you were talking about theatre in Wales and you said the phrase theatre in Wales so many times, I had this vision of Pinocchio putting on a show after being eaten by Monstro and doing theatre in Wales because he's in a whale. That's where my brain went to at that moment.
But yeah, it's a big focus. I think as well as we like, I've really enjoyed speaking to different people in Europe and how many people know in Germany and in the Netherlands and in France where we can talk and actually be like, oh no, we understand this, and make people aware of, in the UK, sometimes just how lucky we are.
Yes.
Because I really value that so much more after experiencing theatre in the different countries, that they have great theatre, but it's a very different amount and quantity of theatre, and actually how many people in mainland Europe have to fly or plan trips to the UK to get their fix of theatre.
Yeah. Australia is a big one that we've both spoken about as well. I'd love to see theatre in Asia. I think that would be so fascinating. Did we figure out did we recently have this conversation, which of us had seen theatre in more different countries? Because for the most part it's been together, but...
Well, Spain's a weird one, because I technically have. But it was a theatre and education show.
I think that counts.
Yeah, so I kind of have ticked off Spain.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're getting even, but you have Brazil and I have Spain.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of even.
Yeah.
I don't think there's specifically an extra country. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice, because I feel like if you're sure we've seen theatre in a different country to each other, but it's nice that we're kind of growing the amount of countries we've been in at the same time.
Yeah. And in terms of weird little statistics, we've both seen Six in at least 3 different countries. Six the musical.
You've seen it in 4.
I've seen it in 4 if we're counting Scotland.
Yeah, you've seen it in 4 if
separately.
you count Scotland separately.
And I've seen Wicked on 3 continents, 4 countries, including Brazil and South America, including Toronto and Canada, where we both saw it. So would love to add to either of those just for the sake of a fun little Xbox achievement, but for real life.
It's me again.
It's you again.
So the final 2 ones are going to be yours.
Okay.
So this is a big one for me.
It's a big sentence.
My final one is to support more new British musicals. And I've included Beam, workshops, etc.
Yeah.
So this is a big thing that I've been a massive champion of, and we both have. And I just want it to continue. I have loved kind of being able, when we've been invited to workshops, to kind of see musicals growing, and when there's been readings or showcases or tryouts and different things like that. Like we went to the Stars and True and you were part of the judging panel.
Yes.
And you've also been with Beam, where you were part of like the selection panel for this year's Beam. And I think a big thing this year is I want to ensure that the things that are happening we're paying attention to, we're learning about new composers, because the past year has been really exciting, where when Babies debuted, when 42 Balloons debuted, when Kathleen Stella did, like Benjamin Button, so many of these musicals we'd seen prior, and we'd seen like their development and how they've grown, and we could talk about it and we could champion these composers. And what I don't want to happen is for me to be like, yay, we did that, cool, and then forget this year about different composers that we haven't been seeing, knowing what's being developed, being aware what fans should be aware of before they happen. Because I really loved that with Babies, where we knew it was amazing, and 42 Balloons, and then to see everybody fall in love with that show was incredible. Like Two Strangers, to see that from the Kiln to the West End, it's suddenly becoming this commercial musical, which I don't think anybody expected, but we were like, this is a show and we could champion it to help support it through that phase.
And we and other content creators are well placed to be able to do that, because you see with something like Two Strangers, people discovered it and people fell in love with it, but more people were starting to find it after it closed in its final weeks. That song started trending on TikTok.
American Express.
Yeah. And so it's like, if we can be part of getting that to as many people as possible beforehand, A, the shows are more successful, but B, the fans don't have that heartbreaking realization of like, what's this show? I need to go see it. Oh, it closed last week.
Yeah. Like in America, when we went over and maybe Happy Ending, and to kind of see that show and kind of being like, yes, we can help people be aware of this is a show for you, because otherwise so many people would not have realised that it was the musical it was that speaks to so many people. But yeah, especially in the UK with new composers, and I think this year, especially with Beam, because
conferences this year,
where so many musicals are going to be presenting themselves and new composers or new pieces from composers that exist.
I think Beam is bigger than ever this year because of the success of Two Strangers and Operation Mincemeat.
Yeah.
And so those are both shows that have come from Beam. If you don't know, Beam is a 2-day musical theatre conference in the UK. It's going to be in Birmingham this year. Who have really asserted themselves as a great supporter of
and
new
this
musicals.
is why I feel like I also have to be a big
Yeah.
voice, because, well, not voice, but like I need to be a big supporter and want to do this, because Birmingham is kind of the Hippodrome, and Birmingham as a city has said we're going to be the new national home for musical theatre.
Yeah.
And as somebody that is from the West Midlands and grew up with Wolverhampton and Birmingham and these theatres, to have like my home area be like championing the thing that I love the most is like this big moment, and I want to ensure that I'm going back to like my hometowns and going there and helping to support a local theatre to me growing up succeed at this, because this is what we want, and then to see musicals from there develop and grow. So
And I'm so invested in this year's Beam because, like you said, I spent that one day. They have dozens of these days. I was only there at one of them, but got to be part of a panel kind of talking through these various like 10-minute pitches from so many talented writers pitching their show, which is this impossibly difficult thing because you can only show a few little bits of music and talk through the plot and try and explain why they believe in it, the work that they have done on it, and then it's the panel's job basically to figure out which would be best placed to be part of this 2-day conference where they are then showcased to potential producers, investors, theatre makers, collaborators, venues, directors, the co-writers. And so of the ones that I really fell in love with, I don't know yet what's been selected, whether it's the ones, but if I recognise any of the ones that I saw pitched at that pitching day at Beam this year, I'm going to be so like, my little Beam babies. Like, and then imagine having been at the pre-Beam pitching day for Operation Mincemeat when they came in, and then seeing what it is now, seeing it going to Broadway.
Well, I think about this in the last Beam, because it's every other year.
Yes.
And there's still a lot of shows that from that Beam, the first Beam we ever went to, that I'm excited to see some of those shows finally come to the stage.
Well, they're just starting to come through now, some of them,
so that we can be seeing what we'd seen there and go, wow, that's the journey. And I'm just loving to learn more about how the growth of musical theatre and the development of musical theatre happens, because also then you can help dispel myths about how it works and see what's working, support in a way, just be part of the musical's journey.
Not to labour the point on this too much, but I think an essential part of this conversation is that it's still very difficult to create new British musicals in the UK and to be a musical theatre writer, with us having spoken about like how brilliant British theatre is and how much more prevalent it is here than in a lot of other countries. You would think that it's a great place to be a musical theatre writer, and it's not. It's
easier in the US.
It's deeply challenging, to get British musicals off the ground, and that's why we are here to help. I have got another resolution. The penultimate one. What does it say? It's one of mine. I still can't read it. It's there. Oh, see a show in one new US state.
Interesting.
Now, as I was writing this, I was thinking about the current political landscape, which is, it's something to think about. And it's certainly,
there's definitely things of safety and...
Yes, but we have an extraordinary amount of privilege not being from there. And we don't have to contend currently, who knows, but with a lot of the potential realities and the fallout of this administration, which we're trying to be mindful of that. But at the same time, I'm always getting messages and seeing comments from people living in different parts of the US saying, we have fantastic theatre here in DC. Someone just messaged me on Blue Sky the other day to say, like, you guys need to find a way to get to, I can't remember which state it was, but somewhere that we hadn't been before, to come and see the amazing theatre that they have there, and original stuff as well, like proper regional shows and not necessarily just touring productions of shows we'd already seen on Broadway, even though I do want to see the Shucked, Kimberly Akimbo and Parade tours if we can.
But also, I guess, like, as well, places like Chicago and Seattle, places where shows try out. Because, like, those theatres that are known for creating the shows, like Atlanta, is known for creating Water for Elephants.
The Alliance?
Yeah. We talk about the big regional theatres in the UK, and we're very easy to talk about them and how important they are for big musicals to start. And in the US, I think hearing from Kate and Ashley all about these theatres and that their seasons are really important to watch because they're where a lot of tryouts start. It'd be nice to visit them and see them and kind of be able to go, oh, that's really cool. I now understand what type of space a show starts in there.
Yeah.
And then how it changes and develops.
And for history as well, to see a theatre where Wicked had its first pre-Broadway tryout in San Francisco, and to go to, I think it's the Old Globe in San Diego is where Into the Woods started its life, I believe. And like the Pasadena Playhouses of this world. Yeah, we've obviously seen shows in New York State, but we've also been to
Connecticut,
Goodspeed in Connecticut, which was
Jersey.
Amazing. Talk about a space that nurtures new musical development is Goodspeed. And yeah, we've done
New Jersey to Paper Mill Playhouse,
Paper Mill and Two River Theatre in Red Bank. Yeah. But I think this may be the year of only one. I'm not saying like Kate said like 3 more states or 5 more states, and
I think for us it's that tricky thing of how do you build it into a trip.
Yeah,
because we're obviously being mindful of where we need to be depending on what's going on in the theatre calendar. But it would be really nice to tick off something new.
Yeah, I think that's an achievable goal.
And I will pick out the final one of Mickey's resolutions for the year.
The last melon.
I kind of brought this up earlier for you.
You did. This. You did. We talked about this in part 1.
Yeah, so Mickey's final resolution is to see more plays.
It is to see more plays, which I'm so embarrassed even to write down because I'm MickeyJoTheatre. I'm not MickeyJo Musicals. And yet, because I tend to try and talk about the things that people are most wanting to hear about, the things that people seem to be clicking on, basically, because that's what I've got to think about now that I do this professionally. It's driven largely by the musicals and by the commercial musicals. And, you know, the conversation around a lot of plays is not as big, it's not as loud, but there are a lot of people who are still really interested in that conversation, and there's still a conversation to be had. And so I'm trying this year and currently doing very well, actually, at
seeing more plays.
At seeing more of the plays. I caught Oedipus at the Wyndhams just before it closed. Also because with the Olivier's looming and with us thinking about them, I think we've seen every eligible musical just about.
I think there's a couple that probably are eligible, but it's...
We've seen certainly the larger ones and the ones more likely to be nominated. But we've really not done well with the plays.
No, and we don't do every year because there's just so many. And I think because so many theatres are eligible, but aren't just for commercial theatres, and then those theatres have multiple spaces. When you talk about, like, the National has 3 spaces.
Yeah. You've got the Donmar, you've got the Almeida. All of this stuff is confirmed eligible alongside all over the West End. And we're getting a bigger turnover of plays than musicals in the West End at the moment.
They have far more. Because plays don't run as long, they'll run for about a month, you have such a limited window. If we're away for part of that, that suddenly becomes really difficult, especially if it sells well.
There are some plays that have come and gone while we've been out of the country.
So it's tricky, and it is interesting what you say about, like, it's also interesting how different the conversation becomes about a play.
Yeah.
Other than, say, a show like Stereophonic, you kind of go, what is the future life of that? Of a play? Often it's very different to a musical, where a musical you'll be talking about transferring to the other country and going on a tour or doing different things, whereas for plays often, once they've had their kind of prestige run, then it'll actually be massive amounts of non-replica productions around the country. That is normally what happens the year after a Tony Award-winning play happens. It'll come to the UK, but it's often not the same production. It'll be a completely different one. It'll be a new debut.
Yeah.
So for writing, it's interesting how different the discussion about a play is compared to a musical.
Yeah. But my the way that I'm actually going to enact this is try and see more at the Royal Court, more at the Bush, more at the Almeida, more at the Donmar if I can, more at the National and the RSC, which we already spoke about in part 1. But I don't think it's realistic, especially with travel as well, to assume I'll be able to see everything at those venues.
No.
And it's a skill, because if you were to ask me about musicals, I'd be able to tell you these are the ones I think are going to be of quality this year. These are the more commercially driven, and these are the ones it's not as vital for me to see. With plays, it's hard to say, like, what's going to be the good thing at the Almeida this year. I couldn't have told you last year that the biggest successes at the Almeida were going to be the biggest successes, because they weren't the most obvious titles or the most obvious casts. And the same with the Donmar.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it will be interesting to see how your relationship with plays and how you can cover plays as well, because unfortunately, in many ways, there are just less people that are looking for play content, but actually in podcast form, potentially more, because it's a very different type of side to theatre.
And I'm thinking, build it and they will come. I'm thinking, like, if I bring that passion, that enthusiasm, maybe people will say, oh, I will go and see this play. I think Stereophonic is a great gateway to this year, where I'm going to be, because we've both seen it already on Broadway and loved it. I am going to be trying so hard to convince people who don't like plays, who have never seen a play, that this is the perfect gateway play. It's accessible. It is not complex. It is not historic language. It features a lot of music. Yes, it's 3 hours long, but it's worth it. I am telling you. And a lot of those same people who say they don't like plays or they don't go to plays probably watch a lot of compelling drama series and Netflix series, and it's the same thing.
It's actually a lot closer to films and TV series compared to musicals, where it's a different art form, really.
Yeah. So that is the last goal for the year. Have you thought of any more as we've been talking through all of these, or are you pretty happy with do we have enough to be working on?
I think those are the main ones. I feel like we'll get an idea. There's a lot of this year that we don't know what theatres are producing, and it was really hard actually coming up with them when I felt like we have such a spotty knowledge of what's coming. So it's trying to break down a period of time of being able to do things and thinking, actually, we don't really know what it's going to look like.
True.
But no, I don't think so. I think just maybe pushing myself to see more plays is a thing, because I do feel like with plays, it feels like a kind of, sure at some point, but actually there's a preference to musicals or to what can come from that. I think that's annoyingly sometimes in the world of what we do. You end up seeing where people are getting excited about it, and it kind of stops you from seeing more. But then there's a show like Cyrano, but I'm so glad we saw last year, and we saw it again in London, because it was a revelation, and I would have really regretted not seeing it.
That's a really good point, because I think what I'm really trying to do is take my Edinburgh Fringe energy and bring it to the rest of my theatre going.
Because at Edinburgh Fringe, we see so many plays.
And it takes a lot less for me to go and see something. It takes an inkling of and I'll give more stuff a chance based on one person said they enjoyed it, or there's that one little detail about it that makes me think, oh, I'm intrigued by that concept, I'm intrigued by that framing, I'm intrigued by what this is trying to do, the nature of what this is talking about.
I feel like that with the new musicals, though, where there's these new musical bites and these little previews that are happening at places like the Other Palace. And the energy, if we were at Fringe and that was happening, I would be running to those things as soon as possible. But when it comes to London and travelling in and planning it with evenings of is that period of time great with a schedule, but knowing there's been so many musicals that have shown more, and actually I would have loved to have known more about these musicals. That's kind of I'm gonna try and think about it more. I think with 2025, even if I learned that scheduling and with what we have to do, that's not healthy. And there's a good balance. I want to go into it actually thinking about the choices rather than just letting things happen.
I think we'll find that balance, or we won't, and we'll still be talking about it this time next year with our 2026 resolutions.
Thank you everybody for watching this video. If you haven't already, make sure you watch part 1. Make sure you're following Mickey Jo and myself on here. Make sure you're subscribed for more videos, including the Stagey Diary series, where we vlog our lives, so you can find out and follow us along for top tips and things like that, and follow us both on Instagram and other platforms at MickeyJoTheatre, at Aeron James UK. And then and then thank you so much for joining us, and we hope. No, I was about to say your ending.
Yeah.
And I hope you have I don't have a real ending to this channel.
Hope you have a nice time. Have a good year. Share your theatre resolutions in the comments down below.
Yeah, share your theatre resolutions down in the comments down below, and we will see you soon. I'm just going to say that. Bye.